Thank you. Ted Peters, principal of the Caroline River School. It's a grade 5-6 building in the township of Franklin, Gloucester County. The greatest impact that we had with the car pilot is that it truly promoted a good sense of collaboration and shared leadership between both myself and my teacher leaders.
I'm Debbie Jennings. I'm also from Caroline River in Franklin Township. And my experience with the car, it allowed for us to have more leadership as a teacher. I'm sorry, I'm a teacher leader there. And it allowed us for more leadership, and it gave us more focus in our PLCs when we had them.
I'm Fran Kenny. I'm principal of Robert Gordon Elementary School. It's a K-5 building in Roselle Park, which is in Linden County. And I think the best part of being involved in this is it really focused our PLCs on student learning, and it also made two of my teachers rise to the top as they has.
My name is Natalie Basil. I'm a 4th grade teacher also at Robert Gordon Elementary School in Roselle Park, and my role in this is a teacher leader working with Fran and another colleague of mine. And I would have to say the best part of doing all of this would probably be attending all of the training and then having this great desire to immediately go back to our school and train our teachers as well, which in turn led to very positive feedback and just a desire for overall school improvement and student achievement.
Hi, I'm Christy Longmore, 1st grade teacher, also at Robert Gordon School in Roselle Park. I'm also in the teacher leader role for the CAR framework. And I think the most effective part of being part of this program right now is with Natalie and I working together to train our staff, we're able to really change the culture behind our school so that now we have a better understanding of what our expectations are of each other and moving forward to our PLCs.
Good morning, my name is Tom Conroy. I'm principal of Brookside School in Westwood, New Jersey, up in Bergen County. We are a K-5 school. It's been an absolutely amazing experience having been to a couple different schools and seeing the way that people have done things before to now have a true model of what teaching and learning should look like that focuses everything on student achievement. It's really been able for us to tailor the way that we run our PLCs and give our teachers the additional support that they need to refocus the direction of their school.
Hi, I'm Brendan McIsaac. I'm the English supervisor at Kennedy Central Regional High School. We're a large regional high school, a staff of 300, and I think this process is really allowing us to reinvest in professional learning communities with a very diverse staff and begin to harmonize the work that we're doing across so many different departments and levels of kids. So it's sort of an identified need, and we're getting onto the same page around our work, which is great.
My name is Pauline Anderson. I'm principal of Glen Meadow Middle School in Vernon, New Jersey. The CAR pilot program was brought to our attention by one of our teacher leaders who really encouraged us to participate. We created an entire group. Our leadership team was trained, and then unfortunately our whole schedule got changed. So my only teachers with common planning time are now my core teachers of my 4 core subjects. No special ed, no special area have common planning time anymore. So we changed the culture a little bit, and as a result then we've had to kind of rework it. But we are moving forward, really working very much on our whole culture and climate.
Hi, I'm Michelle Flynn. I'm a 5th grade teacher at the Embassy Athletes Middle School in Muskegon, New Jersey. And the greatest impact that this CAR framework has had for me personally has given me the opportunity to really guide and direct and give focus to our PLC conversations to benefit the 5th grade team.
I'm Mark Warner from the Embassy Athletes School in Muskegon. I'm a 8th grade teacher. And going along with what Michelle said, the participation in the pilot program has greatly impacted our PLCs. It's motivated and re-energized them. It's actually been the car that we use to actually improve our district. So it's been very good.
Hi, I'm Diane Murray. I'm also from Embassy Athletes Middle School. I'm a 7th grade science teacher. And the greatest impact I've seen is the whole idea of collaboration. Until this time, we worked as a team, but we worked in isolation. So everybody would kind of do their thing, even in cross-curricular projects, and then we bring it together. Now we plan everything together, we have more conversations about things, and as a result, it has a greater impact on the student learning.
Kelly Montgomery, also from FCI Athletes Middle School, sixth grade math teacher. And I think for me personally, it's really been an opportunity for us. We're a very small school, but we finally, now the four of us have been able to emerge as teacher leaders and really take on that role of shared leadership amongst our school and our staff, and that has empowered us, and it's now impacting, as everyone else said, our PLC teams. That's been a huge takeaway from all of this.
My name is Dora Matthew. I'm from the Janice Middle School in New Jersey. I'm the assistant principal there. And CAR has come right on time for our district. We are going through a substantial amount of change. We have a new superintendent, we have several administrators, and there are new initiatives which seem to happen daily for us. So what the CAR model has allowed our teachers to do is to gain some control and to put things in perspective in a way where their expertise is valued, they are contributing, and they are collaborating, and they are not just complying. And we are seeing phenomenal results from them. And what they're able to do is, where we started off this year where they were given a curriculum that they have very little control over it, but CAR has allowed them to take control back and create quality SGOs, quality formative assessments. So they're not just participating in this process, but they are really leading it. And so it's been a wonderful experience for us thus far.
Good morning. My name is Lamar Thomas. I'm the principal of the Genesis Middle School. I almost wanted to say ditto. But what I would also say is that the process has also helped to bolster our cultural renewal plan, and that has really given us an opportunity to rethink our thinking around collaboration and best practice.
So I've heard a lot of really pointed words that I just want to point it out to the audience. Guide, reinvest, harmonize, collaboration, common focus, shared leadership, right on time, which was really good. I'm going to get to that in my next question to you. And focus, change, and regain control. Amazing ways to bring our professionalism back to the work that we do, and focusing not only on staff and educator learning, but to ensure we get the kinds of gains we need for our kids. So I want to take you all back to that very first day that you walked in February 4th, to that learning. And you came in with a lot of knowledge in your head. From some of you, can you tell us what was the most significant learning that you had that day that you needed to process and be able to take back to your schools? Who'd like to start? Tom.
I think the February day was an eye-opener for a lot of people, a lot of the staff members that I had brought with me. They had a renewed sense of ownership now of what was going to happen in the building. I think that one of the key points that was even brought up this morning is, the old method of the top-down leadership, and that, do as I say, not as I do, to some extent. Completely changed. And they had a true understanding, like, wow, I am going to be heard, I am going to be valued throughout the process. And the nice part of it is that after we had left that meeting with our beginning leadership team, when they got back, they were excited to talk about it and share it with their colleagues. So it kind of generated a really positive buzz in our building.
Wow. So, one of our teacher leaders. Deb?
Well, when we completed the rubric, we were talking about what we needed to improve on, because our PLCs were functioning very well.
Interject. Can you tell them what the rubric is? Can you kind of describe the rubric?
When we were going through deciding what our focus should be, what we had to prioritize for our district, and our PLCs were running very well. And but we were looking for areas to focus on, and we realized that we really needed to focus on our formative assessments, our common formative assessments, and So it gave us a focus because, like I said, when we went into this, we were thinking, we're doing a lot of what they're showing us. So it gave us a way to focus and improve our school.
And the rubric itself is very specific to CAR, but also very specific to the practices that we want to put in place to ensure that we are connected, cohesive, coherent in the work that we do for students. Anybody else want to add to this? What were some of the significant learnings you had? Yes.
I remember feeling like a sense of relief that there was some cohesion finally. Having been in education for a little bit, we had a lot of these initiatives, but they were disjointed. One year we learned about PLCs, then one year it was common formative assessments, and then it was SGOs. And no one really kind of made the connection between all of those things. And with CAR, I remember in my first meeting, I said, well, finally, someone just packaged this all up. It's not anything new. We've done all of this. It's just they've streamlined it for us. And that was, coming to that realization made it easy to go back to our staff and say, we're not coming with a new initiative. It's not the flavor of the month. This is everything that you've been trained. Now you can see how it all aligns. And that was a relief for myself as an administrator and as an educator.
Right. Anybody else want to add?
We have a question. There's a question.
You have a question?
Would that be all right?
Absolutely.
Thank you for bringing up the issue of SGOs. One of my concerns with buy-in is that my staff is not passionate about SGOs. I don't know. That always gets a big laugh. No. So the concern is I see so much value and so much like purity is like great. But when the state kind of took that model, it now has a little bit of a stigma to it. So we're kind of working backwards. We didn't have PLCs, we had SGOs. So I guess my question is, has that been a struggle? That if we introduce the CAR framework in PLCs, the teacher's reaction is going to be, oh, SGOs. So how do you get teachers to take a look at pre-assessment data, goals, measuring it, et cetera, when that's kind of been tainted? I mean, SGOs are really good, but the cumbersome nature of them kind of suck the life out of it. So how do you sell that or overcome that obstacle?
So I'm going to do Lamar, and then I see Barbara shaking her head.
I think the underlying sentiment that Ms. Matthew just shared is the validation aspect of what's right about this. And so with all of these things that continue to change in our landscape, what we made a really conscious effort was to make sure that we articulate that, and to ensure the longevity of this and the success of this, that there's a balance between the continuity that we expect and the change that is coming. So with all these new changes, we put a re-emphasis back on our core values and our core purposes, the timeless fundamentals that drive our school. And so in the height of those frustrations with SGOs and what goes here and how do you calculate, we brought them right back to rethink their thinking about what it is we do in this school every day. And if we are here to ensure the next generation is going to be, critical thinkers and problem solvers, that these methodologies and strategies can change every year for all we care, but our core purposes and values will not. And that kind of helps to balance the equation and the conversation in our building.
Barbara? I agree with that as well. Unfortunately, I think we've become in education overwhelmed and consumed by acronyms, and we lose the focus of the substance. So when we look at SGOs, and going back to the initial question of, that February day, I was like, oh no, how are we going to go back to the staff with yet another acronym? Okay, but it's not. CAR isn't an acronym, and SGO shouldn't be the acronym either. Like, we have to use the PLCs to focus on what it is that you're actually doing in the classroom. And I think you said the whole validation aspect. What is it? Every single teacher comes in with his or her content knowledge, and that's the focus. This isn't something additional. This is what we are doing. It's just a matter of actually having the dialogue and actually making sure that, the focus is on, it's not meeting the standard. It's actually implementing it, the learning that's going on. And that's how I think we're misguided with the SGOs. I think we're misguided with a lot of the acronyms, unfortunately. Because what happens, we're like, oh, we have to cross this off our list, we have to cross this off our list, and we're being, it's almost like misdirected. But following the CAR model, I mean, this is what, as educators, we're trained to do. Like, this is what we do in our classrooms. So, but then we don't usually follow through with that with the paperwork aspect, if that makes sense. So.
Okay, I'm going to move us on because we have a number of other questions that I want to get to. So some of the people we haven't heard from. You left that day, and very excited. I want to tell you, they really drank the Kool-Aid, but they went back to reality. So I want to know, what did you need to go back and do in order to begin the work of implementing the blended online learning modules through the CAR process?
I, as principal, had to find time for them to get to my staff and educate my staff. So we knew that that couldn't be done in an hour after school faculty meeting. Like, that just wasn't the time, because nobody wants to learn at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's just not possible. So we devised a couple of half-day workshops where I split my staff in half, and they were able to come for the whole morning or the whole afternoon. I covered the classes with special area teachers.
So a great resource.
And gave them, I think we did that two or three times, and we're going to do it again next week, because the training has to be on.
I also felt like it was very important, while we're blessed with a wonderful principal who's giving us the time to be able to train our staff. I think the most effective part of it is that Christy and I, as their colleagues, introduced it to them. It wasn't coming from a representative from the state. It wasn't coming from a superintendent or a curriculum director or even their principal. It was coming from someone or two people who say, we recognize you have initiative fatigue. We recognize no one wants to start anything brand new. So here's our interpretation of it, and we're just going to work smarter, not harder. We feel okay about it. We're very approachable about it. So I think that was the most effective thing, probably, when coming back and introducing it for the very first time.
Okay.
We recognized that each one of our PLCs was at a different starting point. So I took Deb, along with one of our other teacher leaders, and brought them into the other PLCs that they're not as familiar with. And from there, they took notes, we collaborated with one another, and really took a detailed look at what our goals were, and also the online modules, and made individual determinations where each PLC should start, what videos, what modules they should take a look at. From there, we went to our school leadership committee and promoted the idea to them. It wasn't me promoting it, it was our other two teacher leaders promoting it. And just like your school, it was integral having the teachers promote this to their colleagues. This could not come from me, even though there could possibly be buy-in if it came from me. It was much more impacting coming from the two teachers that were on the committee. And from there, we constantly went in, took a look at the PLCs, monitored their progress, and really custom tailored each PLC and what they had accomplished and what they still needed to accomplish in order to meet what our final goals were.
Brendan, you were one of the 6 high schools involved in this. Could you talk a little bit about it from the high school perspective? That's a very different perspective.
I guess kind of connecting a few things that have been said, I think one of the big takeaways is the recognition that the most powerful change agent in any school is the group of teachers working together. They are the core of what happens in any building or the success of any building. So we really wanted to rediscover that, kind of addressing the initiative fatigue and the things that have kind of distracted teachers from a lot of that work. I also think, high school teachers can often be the most resistant and or skeptical to these kinds of things. So we too had to recognize that this isn't anything new. This is sort of harkening to many of the good practices that we know and ought to be engaging in. I think it's also important that you've got to know the needs of your local culture and your local district, because I think each of us is going to tell you a very different story of how it's sort of customized for our group. So, and we, as has already been stated here, right away I went back to a new superintendent and a new curriculum director. So I had to resell the whole idea that I had even gone to this thing and that it was worth pursuing. And thankfully we were able to build capacity, but we recognize we have to take it slow. Just the beginning of this year, we've got teachers who have their PPPs and their SGOs. We're like, all right, so let's get through that. Let's get to the other side of that, and let's really take a measured walk through this. And it's training the administrative staff as a PLC, re-engaging in that learning, and then just gradually rolling it out to the teachers and using those teacher leaders who are going to recognize what is good and gravitate towards what is good in here. And then when you get people having these conversations, teachers with other teachers, a lot of that other stuff starts to fade away, and they realize, this is what we're here about. So that's strategically been one of our focus.
Great. And Pauline, you started, when you were talking very initially, you talked about a challenge that you have already met. Could you talk a little bit more from the middle school perspective, a little bit about one of the challenges that we had?
Originally, our leadership team was composed of myself, one of our special ed teachers, a regular education teacher, and our ELA supervisor, because we thought that would be a good, well-rounded group. When we went back to the school, we took the time and we got permission to have a few days of professional development over the summer for some curriculum work and turnkey the ELA teachers. That was our first focus. However, they were taking it in very different places, and we started sitting down with these kind of sheets, and it was like, okay, we're done with the first standard, next. And so then we realized this, we had to really backpedal. That then was changed for us when they took away our common planning time for all of the other teachers. We took an advisory period, which the students had, and now it is Genius Hour. So every special area and special education teacher has been scheduled to teach that. So while that has its place, it took all common planning time away from them, and it really caused a school that was very much a common culture to be very, very split down the middle to the haves and the have-nots. I mean, at one of our faculty meetings, the teacher actually said, well, we were like the bastard children, so it was like, okay. So we had to work now with those core teachers, and we're working on the modules and starting to figure out how it is that we can use that very limited after-school, Monday afternoon meeting time to bring everyone on board. So that's where we're turning to those core teachers so that they will be able to help us do that. It has to have, it's changed. So that's what we're working on that.
Were there other challenges that some of you faced that you might want to bring out to our audience?
We had several challenges. We're very fortunate that Mr. Thomas builds into the schedule common planning time. We do teams, so we have interdisciplinary teams, 2 per grade level. So they have a period a day, every day where they meet. But we listen to the staff because the staff, one of their, not a complaint, there was a request, they really wanted to meet in their subject groups. So where do we find time for that? So it meant we had to recalibrate ourselves. We couldn't go back to traditional faculty meetings. We had to really give away that time so that they could meet. Now, best intentions, we were trying to do a 90-minute PLC coming back from, because we had Monday off for Rosh Hashanah, we were going to do it on Tuesday, and we ran into opposition from the union. So much so that he's currently being briefed. Now, you can say, okay, well, we tried, let's pack it up, they can't meet, oh well. And we were just not going to take that. We saw value in the work, we were not going to stop, so we brought in 6 subs, and we rotated the teachers. So we brought in each discipline, and we said, here's your 90-minute PLC. You got 90 minutes, here's your deliverable level. We need a common formative assessment at the end of it.
And we preloaded them, you know, they said they have emailed all the materials that we need, the park data scores, so that it was data driven. We gave them everything, we sat and we said, we're gonna talk for 10 minutes and then we're out of here because you have work to do. And they complied and they participated and collaborated and they came up with great stuff. And we still got our hands smacked because then the question came from central office was, why were 6 subs in your building? And
The right work.
and we said, we'll just take that one because we can justify the work. And we didn't even dilly down. Once we got those common formative assessments, we brought in a team of administrators, teacher leaders, and we said, okay, let's look at these. Are these quality assessments? And if they're not, we're going to send them back to those departments and ask for the revisions and tell them what we need. And they responded and they were willing, and our common formative assessments were given out, and they drove those SGOs, and we saw quality work. And that's all you can ask for. It's like, you know, they made a request, we did what we could to get it, they met us halfway, and they did what they needed to do, and, you know, you take a few hits on the chin and you keep moving forward.
So, you've been at this for 9 months. How are you sustaining the energy and commitment to this process? I think we're beginning to hear how that's being done. And I'd love to hear from somebody who hasn't had an opportunity to speak yet.
One of the ways that we've been able to sustain it in our building is, for one, the workshops that we've been having in February. We came back 7 months later, actually just went to one last month. It's been so informative and just really inspiring. I mean, I know that we joke and say after one of the car framework workshops, we come back skipping. Because we're really like that excited to share with our staff. You know, being able to present the workshops to our staff has been, you know, extremely beneficial to just getting that buy-in from them. You know, and now just providing more support. You know, either it could be by just through an email, you know, hey, I need a little help with this, or you know, what were you talking about? You know, you just kind of discuss this quickly, and that's been also very helpful. Our principal has also been extremely awesome to let us use parts of our staff meetings, just to kind of refresh the things that we're working on, where they should be at this point, just to kind of keep the staff moving so that, you know, there's continuity in it, so they don't think like, oh, those PLCs are going to go away again. Right? They have a firm understanding now that, you know, it's not just here, this is your PLC, this is your document, hand it in. It's really benefiting our students. And I think, you know, the continued workshops that we come to and then present to the staff have been extremely helpful.
And safe to say that there's a lot of learning on the part of teachers being applied back in the classroom because of the work in the PLC.
Yes. From our middle school, we've had a change in leadership. So our principal who started this is no longer with us, and we have a new principal who has not given us 100% buy-in and approval for what we do, which has made it difficult for our leadership team. But I think the way we've been able to sustain it is that we are the leadership team. The principal's not on our leadership team. We collaborate and do share leadership, but we take it to our staff. And so we've been able to sustain it because we believe in it, and we have the buy-in of our teams because they support us and they believe in what we're doing and they want to continue to support us. So by having the 4 of us drive this, our teams are supporting us and have stood by us and supported throughout the last 9 months.
Can I add something on that?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on yours too. Yeah.
Interesting about the whole, we've had the whole change in leadership, central office, as well as our building principal. Our union representation was actually called in and basically told that what we were doing, our union should be grieving. It was coming from us though. So it was similar to yours, but it was the reverse. Like central office was telling us we should be grieving it, but it was coming from us. Like we were the ones. So just so you know, it's the same, like the teachers want this. So just, I didn't wanted to, yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yes. Yes, but I agree because seeing the value in that, because and part of it is one person in particular that I chose to be on the leadership team last year was a veteran member of the staff had been looked for probably 6 or 7 administrative positions, including the one currently that I'm filled, that I have. Yeah, oh boy, is right. So I thought it was very important to have them on, even, just question everything for the entire, I've been a principal for 17 years, but this is only my 3rd year in this building. But my first year questioned everything that I did. So it ended up that it was lucky. But to piggyback on what you said, at our leadership team meeting that we had about 3 weeks ago, he actually said to me, you know what, he goes, if we were talking about a difficult conversation and a difficult article that our coach, Barbara, who's I love, is phenomenal, Barbara, give it to the back. And he said, you know what, Tom, with all due respect, if you weren't here, we're still going to do it. If you're not here, we're still going to do it. So it was really nice to know that they, the biggest naysayer sees the value of it and sees how important it's been in just the past 6 months to really change the dynamic of the building and where we're going to go and what we're going to do from here. So that was really, I didn't take it negatively. I thought it was great. That's amazing.
Great accolade.
Just to the program itself.
So I'd like to, because we'd love to get everybody in groups and have you have time to work with some of our panelists. Or should we just?
Well, let's see if there's more questions from the audience, and then we'll see if we want to just do it.
What about other questions?
The template you gave us is somewhat similar to the Rubicon Atlas platform that we use, and one of the things we sold that by explaining that would fulfill the lesson plan obligation.
Mm-hmm.
So do any districts use Rubicon Atlas, and is that template a duplicate of Rubicon, or would you have teachers continue to map the unit on Rubicon as well as that template?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Seamus, I haven't had the big conversation with my assistant superintendent yet. I've used Rubicon before. The way that they're currently using it in the district is really not a mapping software. It's really just about putting the curriculum up and not in the specific units that you see how they're outlined within the CAR framework. I could talk for an hour and a half, but just a short piece of that is, as Donna stated before about lesson plans, in that middle section looking like lesson plans, I created a new template out of that this year, and I shared it just with the leadership team right now, and I have K to 5, but really my 3rd and 4th grade teachers are working with this right now. They're creating their lesson plans via that template and inserting links in for technology and everything else. I think it's a much more valuable template to utilize as opposed to the Atlas in that regard for lesson plans, but just that general conversation and what you had asked is, that is their lesson plans from now on, but they do it collaboratively. So when I am checking lesson plans, it's a shared Google Doc. I go in, I can make a little comment, and if you don't know about Google Docs yet, you have to ask any of us and we'll have a nice conversation about it. You just go in and make a little comment, so it's an interactive document. So next year, you're not getting a stack of 45 lesson plan books on your desk where you're just checking off and reading for hours and hours. It's a collaborative document that they will just refine over the course of their years, all of which is standards-based, and everything came out of here. But I see the value in the Atlas from maybe a curriculum document standpoint.
I'm just concerned about having sold them on that for 3 or 4 years and now saying, take that, sorry, that was good, but now I want you to do a different template. And I'm worried about how much.
Yeah, I think you can use the Atlas easily.
I've spoken with Rubicon Atlas because we tried to get them to adjust their template. They were very amenable to trying to make as many changes as possible. They couldn't quite get that central table to force the alignment. They could only, but so I would speak to the Rubicon Atlas rep and say, what can you do for us to help plug that in? Because I understand your concern about layering on another type requirement. Other questions from the group? We'll change it for you. Go ahead.
You're talking about your challenging person that you put on there. I was just wondering if any of the administrators, when you were picking your teams, purposely picked someone who was strung in the association or something to make sure that the buy-in was coming from both sides.
Yeah, I put my building rep on. And again, if I had been a new administrator, maybe I wouldn't have, because she was a negative force on the staff. But I put 2 cheerleaders on, and I put 2 negatives on. By luck, it worked out. One, the gentleman was really re-energized. The other person, not so much, but has come around. But I did that hoping, just fingers crossed. I could have totally bombed on it. But
So you said by luck, and I'm thinking it's by leadership.
I think well, yeah,
It's funny, I have a name for that. I call it the Lennon and McCartney pairing. It's getting better all the time. They can't get much worse. And I get one of each of those on everything. But I think unfortunately, we lost our Paul McCartney. He became principal at another district, so I have my Lennon, but it's a good Lennon. But then, again, re-engaging other teachers. As we lose some of those people, we bring other people on board, and that's sort of where I've discovered even the people who have been around for a long time, when they realize that they're getting involved again at sort of these ground level, meaningful conversations for staff, they re-engage, and they bring to the table their expertise and their knowledge, and they recognize that they're participating in something that has the potential to be powerful.
And you heard from another district down here a little bit about union issues. So let's.
I brought on one of our music teacher who is really big in the association, even at the county and state level. And his gripe has always been, well, I'm a music teacher, I'm the only music teacher in the building, I have a PLC, but I have nothing in common with these other people, we don't teach the same subject. And by strategically looking at certain car conversations, we were able to transform the Related Arts PLC, which is all of our Related Arts teacher, our nurse, our counselor, they're all in it together. And the unique commonality with them is they have all the kids in the school. So we found that, we identified that aspect, and through certain conversations, whether it be videos or discussions that they had or articles to read together, it prompted the conversation between them in order to realize that they had so many more things in common than they did have things different. And it really regenerized the whole purpose of having that shared collaboration time each week, even though they might not necessarily be planning some sort of common assessment or anything like that. They are able to share what works for this child, what works for that child, in each of their different subjects. They're able to talk about the different types of learning styles for the children. So it was really unique to look at a PLC prosper, not in a core academic discipline, but in one of the other subjects, and such a cross-section. So, kudos to the CAR framework for allowing that to really occur in such a nice way.
One of the people on our panel, as I said before, was one of our special education teachers, so he feels kind of eliminated from the process and actually said, you might want to just replace me on this when you're going out on training and whatnot. And one of our teachers, who was he's I don't know whether he was burned out, but kind of on the negative and rolling his eyes because he's looking for administrative positions and whatnot, he has really been a wonderful force on our PLC meetings. And he came in one day and said, can I ask you why you didn't put me on this team? I would have loved to have been on this team. But I'll tell you, the personality that has seen in the past, I wouldn't have thought he wanted to do anything extra, but he's really has kind of turned around. He's saying, I love it this year. I love my kids this year. And I don't know whether that's true or whether he gets that opportunity every morning to really collaborate with his peers and talk about, he carried in his dissertation one day or his thesis and shared things out of it, which was really empowering, I think, for him, because sometimes I feel like we don't get the chance to be professionals and let people know all that we've worked on behind the scenes, and celebrate. And celebrate it and say, you know what, I really can do more than just keep taking orders from the top.
Anybody else? For the good of the order, I would love you 2 or 3 words that describe how you're feeling right now about the CAR process and its implementation or beginning implementation in your school district. By the way, this is not an overnight implementation. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes persistence, and it takes really strategic planning with a group, a shared leadership group that's actually constantly looking at what's a barrier and how are we going to overcome that barrier, not using the barrier as a reason to quit. So where are you? What are 2 or 3 words that would describe where you are right now? Yes.
I think maybe 2 or 3 words that jumps. What am I thinking about is maybe decisiveness, consistency, rounded up with strength, because this is really an investment in our school beyond us. This is the generational work that we've invested in, and we've been very intentional about who was brought onto that team, irrespective to union, prior positions, so on and so forth. We would just really put our feet down and said, you know, this is our legacy in ensuring that long after we are no longer administrators in this district, that this work and this perspective and this thinking will continue.
I think committed, especially after hearing everybody speak, sometimes you feel like some of your issues that you happen are unique onto your own district or your town or school. And hearing some of you guys talk, I feel like definitely are living that out or have lived that out. And it just makes me feel even more committed that we can get through that, that we are still doing great work. And even our little glitches that we've had, we've been able to see our way through them. So the light is definitely at the end of the tunnel. And we're just going to continue to keep working so that all of our teachers can get to the end of this roadmap.
I love that analogy.
I'd say focus for us. We're focused because, with all the changes we've gone through, it's kept us, our focus is the children. And so it's really enabled us to stay positive amongst our teams and within ourselves, and to just stay focused on what our true objective is and what our outcome needs to be.
My word is kind of unusual. It's grateful that we started this whole process with our former principal, who was so dedicated to it and energized us so much so that we can make the transition and hopefully, hold everything together and move forward. So I'm grateful that, we had this. I think it's helping the staff tremendously, keeping us together.
At the risk of stealing Nike's little thing, I would say just do it. It's persevere, baby steps. I mean, all those things work, but we all went into education for a reason. So we come together and our district has undergone so many changes that this is actually something that is helping us get through some very bad times right now. So it truly, truly keeps you focused and keeps the students are the reason we're in education. And use the car, it works.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the sense of unity that I've seen amongst my own team and then amongst all of us, and it has really been something that's beneficial because of this framework. And just really using our time efficiently, during our PLCs and having the focus to give us, to help the students, in the classroom. I think I think I'm going to say hopeful. At our last program meeting, I kind of went in feeling like we hadn't made the progress that we wanted to, and feeling almost guilty about that, like I was arriving without having studied for the test or done my homework, And when you keep saying 9 months, I'm thinking, okay, that's like a gestation period. Okay. So I think hopeful.
I've almost said that.
I know. So I just think that we're hopeful
grateful that we are on a path that is our path and our journey. And you say so often say that to students when they get in, I'm in middle school, so they get into these little cups, and some people feel like it's the end of the world. I was going to be an Eagle Scout, I was going to be, and you're like, it's okay, really. I think, throwing that ball was not the worst thing. So I think just feeling like you're hopeful, and you're hopeful on behalf of your teachers too.
I'd say, build a team, build a plan, execute that plan deliberately and slowly, and celebrate any positive cultural element that comes out of it.
I would say believe in the process, believe in I want to just say the document, but it's more than a document once you really start to get into it and involved in it. It was something that was created by a group of extremely talented people who didn't just do it overnight, like you said. They really took the time, they took their experience, they took their professionalism, and they created something that they believed in. And I think that if we take that same focus and same attitude going through this, the road will smooth itself out, and there will be that common understanding that we're looking for to just to provide that atmosphere that we want for kids.
The word I'm thinking of is positive. When we began to implement the CAR framework in our school, we worked on climate culture and the last year we created our school mission statement, which is now being implemented in every classroom. It's very simple, we use it, and I think that's just kind of changed just the outlook among staff and students in our school, administrators as well. It's just created a little bit more of a positive environment for the students, and just working collaboratively among staff as well.
I have two. I think someone said focused before, which I can't agree with more. I think that in not just the world, but more specifically a career where everything is changing constantly, our building was craving structure and consistency no matter what it was. And I think delivering the pitch that there are conversations that should be had every time you sit to meet at a PLC, even something as simple as that, was like the biggest breath of fresh air amongst our staff. And my second word was also professional. I think that I've been a teacher for 6 years, coming on 6 years, and I always knew I was a professional, but I don't think I quite tapped into it as much as I have been now. I think that throughout the day or throughout the year, there's so many different roles. You feel like a circus ringleader, you feel like you're a secretary, you feel like you're doing paperwork. There's so many things, and it's kind of nice to sit and remember that above everything, you're a professional and you're there for your colleagues, you're there for your students in a professional way.
I think perseverance, because the steps taken are definitely worth it. I think somebody talked about all the initiatives, all the different acronyms, and we did PLCs, and we were kind of just doing it as a planning meeting, or they would talk about field trips and things like that. It was great that they had the time to do that, but it wasn't about student achievement, and this kind of brought us all together.
That made me think, as a teacher, it made me feel empowered, because we were allowed to take a leadership role in what we were discussing, and it wasn't just about the agenda. It was more about the kids and what we can do for our students, and what we are doing that's working, and maybe getting ideas from other teachers, what's working for them. And it has helped with student achievement, and I think that that's the empowerment is for me the best thing that can happen.
The CAR framework definitely revitalized the sense of collaboration and communication with one another within our PLCs, really within the entire school. It helped redefine the chain of communication, how we go about communicating and discussing and deciding new initiatives, and really what occurs within our school, whether it be curriculum related to something operations. The teachers find a common purpose now and want to go to their PLC. They find creative ways, even if they have to swap coverages, which happened yesterday. They find ways to make this happen. They don't come up with excuses anymore as far as Well, we couldn't have the meeting because, no, they had a meeting whether I'm there, I'm not there, it doesn't matter. It's not me, it's them. They have that ownership with the PLC, it's theirs. I have to ask them permission now in order to speak at their PLC. If I can be part of it, the agenda, I should say. It is extremely nice to see how they have that ownership and they have that common purpose behind what they want to do, what they know they need to do in order to have a successful team, really have a successful school.
I think what I'm really hearing is that this change in adult culture has not only changed how adults work with each other and get the work done, but has changed how kids interact, made it a safer culture for kids, and by extension, supported parents in understanding the culture of the school and the expectations that we set for students. So I can't thank this panel. Are they phenomenal?
They are, let's give them a round of applause.